I'm not talking about the pile of laundry or the unmade bed, although those might be symptoms, might not. I'm talking more about the spiritual, emotional side of things. That mess. If you know, you know. Let's have a chat about it. And I think it's worth talking about how to sift through all this. For clarity's sake, I'm going to point out 3 different types of mess: the they hurt me, I made a mistake, and I got nailed by catastrophe. Now, in real life, these different types of mess, trauma, suffering, whatever you want to call them, tend to kind of blur together. And those experiences can really impact our story, how we chase our dreams, what relationships we get in, so many aspects of who we are. But what if we want to clean up a little clutter to create space for something greater? What if we feel like there's a whole new level of potential that we haven't tapped into yet? And what if we look around and see that this beautiful world is full of things that we want to see with our own eyes and filled with daring adventures that we want to be the hero of and goodness that we want to share in? So it's time to address the mess. And it's time for a little therapy. Disclaimer, I'm not a licensed therapist, but neither is ChatGPT. I'm just a human who knows what it's like to live through some of the mess and who wants to share some things I've actually seen work. So first of all, first step is admit the mess. Just to clarify, I value your privacy, and admitting you don't have to broadcast the mess. In fact, that actually might hurt your future job prospects, but I think it's important to be really honest with ourselves and with those who can help us, like therapists or healthy significant others or your family or friends. But here's the key to all of this is you have to admit your mess. Because some people sometimes trip on this first step of the whole process by admitting someone else's mess. So please don't tell me, you're super confident, you just hate people, when really you're shy. There might be some annoying people in your life, so no judgment. You can actually tell me, a random girl on the internet, whatever you want, but I think you owe it to yourself to be upfront about what's going on. You might struggle with some confidence issues. Again, no hate, I think the first step is giving ourselves a little bit of space for that mess. Basically, if you go to the doctors and you give them the wrong symptoms, the medicine he gives you probably won't help, or it actually might make things worse. So step 1 is a very serious self-evaluation. Here's a journal exercise. Describe you as your perfect self. Describe how you interact with people, how you come across to people, how you feel emotionally, what dreams you're chasing, what your attitude is. You are made so beautifully. So look at those strengths, celebrate those. But also, after writing out a list, after writing out that perfect description, write a list of where you fall a little short. Maybe make a list of the traits that you could develop more and pick one that you want to start working on. This isn't a lack of self-love, this is self-honesty, and it's actually a way of taking even better care of yourself. So it is a process, but I think as we grow more honest with ourselves, then it's important to implement the next step, which is don't accept victim status. I'm not going to pretend that some awful stuff can't happen to a person. You've probably lived through it. You get it. And by the way, if you're thinking I'm a mess and I haven't even experienced like that level of trauma, or like so-and-so, just stop. How is that helpful? Whatever life package we've been given, that's what we're going to work with today, because that's our little mess that we can organize, we can reorder, make it ordered, and make a difference. So it's a look in the mirror and change kind of day. But it's not a look in the mirror and accept victim status day. So how does victim status happen? I'm not sure. It might be that our underdog loving culture kind of got out of control. It might be because we feel tough, like we've lived through so much, or maybe we feel like we're more justified having a meltdown if we have the My Life Sucks trophy, or maybe feel like we'll garner more pity. It might, I don't know for sure. But I do know, for whatever reason, I catch people holding on to their mess like it's a full-blown gold medal, and they're holding on to pain like it's a lifeline. I'm not asking anyone to ignore that part of their story. It happened. But I feel like holding on to pain as a lifeline will eventually drown a person by making them slowly more bitter and less willing to try at everything in life. And holding on to that pain as a like that past as a trophy, that mess as a trophy, will limit who you can be today based on who you were in the past. So my plan is we're gonna drop the lifeline because it's time to build some muscles and learn how to swim. And we're gonna throw out that moldy old trophy and make room for some new trophies that we're in the process of earning right now. So journal exercise 2 is maybe a little heavier. What's one way you've held on to the mess? What's one repercussion that's had in your life? And a tough question that sometimes resonates with people is maybe what's one lie that you've bought into? And so maybe, there's examples like maybe your parents were divorced and now you don't want to get in a relationship. I don't know what has impacted your life and your story, but I know that so many industries around us actually feed on the weakness of others. And I don't want to live that way anymore. So basically, by rejecting victim status, we can reject the negative impact that those wounds, that mess, can have in our life. It's time to move on. We can dump some of that mess right now for a lighter future where we can be more present to others. So what this brings us to the third point, which I'm hoping all of you can skip: no weaponizing the mess. Okay, an example, somebody's friends dump them the junior year. That sucks if your friend group dumps you. But let's say this person meets a new group of friends and they're having a great time, but that person's afraid that they're going to lose this group of friends, and so they constantly talk about how they feel bad and people should feel bad for them. And maybe that the new friend group starts getting exhausted, but you play that junior year card, and you have them staying up late to listen to your talking and your ranting. That's, we probably need to talk to that person about boundaries, but right now we're just working on ourselves. And basically, weaponizing wounds is a potential danger that people face when we have mess in our lives. By the way, venting is great. We have to process stuff. We all have to work through stuff. But it kind of comes down in my mind to why. Why are we doing it? Are we trying to heal, or are we just trying to make it all about ourselves? This is, a less common this is less common in my experience, but a journal exercise that anyone can do, whether or not they struggle with this or not, is to write down one way you can care for a loved one more. And caring for others is a great way to kind of get out of ourselves. Another way is gratitude, which brings us to the fourth step of the process: gratitude. How does gratitude address the mess? It reorders things. Maybe, that girl was mean, but I'm just so grateful that I finished a 5K and how that has impacted my life. And so her impact on my life feels really small, and my excitement and my triumph and my joy feels even bigger. And if we do this exercise of gratitude again and again, suddenly our capacity for joy is bigger. And guess what? The mess feels a lot smaller because it doesn't take up as much space in our life. So pull out the journal. You know exactly what to do. Take time to write down things you're grateful for. I like having a list of 10 because then sometimes I have to start really thinking about it more. But gratitude has actually helped me with a lot of stuff. It's even helped me run faster. I kid you not. I used to feel bad about running so slowly, and then I switched my inner dialogue from, oh my goodness, I'm so slow, to thank you that I have legs and the willpower to run. And that changed everything. When people ask me how I managed to run an entire marathon, I say gratitude. And it is the truest thing I could say. Which brings us to the fifth and final step of untangling the mess at this point in time. And that is, it's time for a new adventure. Part of the issues of having a mess is that it can hamper us from living life fully. But once we know who we are, once we have more confidence and we're loving others and living gratefully, there's just more space. So what are we going to fill it with? We can pray with more clarity and deeper peace. We can take better care of our health. We can build stronger relationships. Really, the possibilities are endless, and the adventure is just beginning. So for this journal entry, pick a dream, write it out, past tense. I still remember writing down, I just ran a marathon. That's right, I went 26 miles on my own 2 legs. And then I started training knowing that was definitely going to happen. So what's your dream, friends? Until next time, let's live fully.